No.20-A, the Albemarle County's Continuity of Government Ordinance and Declaration of Local State of Emergency, and the EDA resolution of April 21, 2020. We are holding this meeting by real-time electronic means with no authority member physically present at a single central location. This is because the pandemic's catastrophic nature makes it impracticable or unsafe to assemble in a single location. All authority members are participating electronically. All authority members will identify themselves and state their general physical location during the roll call, which we will hold next. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the county's website. The public has real-time audio-visual access to this meeting over Zoom and real-time audio access over telephone, both as provided in the lawfully posted meeting notice. The public is invited to offer live comment during the public comment period. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and must be germane to matters on the agenda. All right, so Richie, you want to call the roll?
I will do it. So Director Don Long.
Present in the city of Charlottesville.
Director George Ray.
The county of Albemarle.
Director David Shreve.
Present on Wintergreen Mountain in Nelson County.
Whoa.
Director Stuart Munson.
Present here in beautiful downtown Scottsville.
Let's see, Director Catherine Imhoff.
Not here.
Director Stephen McNaughton. He make it?
I don't see him.
Director John Mottola.
Present in Crozet.
And we have Supervisor Diantha McKeel. She's the board liaison.
And I am present in beautiful downtown Jack Jewett Magisterial District where the rhododendrons are budding.
So I count 5, Mr. Chair. We have a quorum and we can proceed.
All right. So matters from the public. Has anybody signed up to speak?
Mr. Chair, there were no members that signed up prior to the meeting to speak.
Okay. All right. Then we'll proceed along. Then approval of minutes. So are there any comments to the minutes? The only thing I noticed was I think it said that Jim Bowling was at the last meeting, and I don't think he was. Anybody else have any comments?
He's trying to be sneaky about perfect attendance.
All right. If there's no comments, is there a motion for approval of the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes.
All right. I'm going to take Mr. Ray's late motion as a second, and all in favor of adoption of the minutes, please say aye.
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 All right, the minutes are adopted. Financial report, according to the agenda, there are no material changes. So unless Dave has something that he wants to add, we'll skip over the financial report. Anything?
I do not.
All right, good report, Dave.
Yes, thank you.
So
cleanest one ever.
On to new business. I would like to welcome John Mottola to the EDA representing the Whitehall District. John, thanks for joining us. We're happy to finally have a full slate of EDA members, and we look forward to having you.
Thank
Roger,
you.
I don't know
Pleasure.
if you wanted to say anything about John?
Well, John comes to us from Perron Robotics, where I hope I get this right. He's the chief operating officer. I guess he's a lawyer by trade and a person who transferred down from, I guess, New York at some point, John. And I'll just pause here and let you add any other appropriate comments you think would be helpful.
Right. My background is basically in law and business, regulatory risk, in the financial services industry primarily. Joined Prone Robotics in April. I relocated to Old Trail from Charlotte, North Carolina. I was in Charlotte for about 6 years. Prior to that, I was in New York City for about 17 or so. And previous to that, in Boston. I'm originally from the Philadelphia, New Jersey area. So that's basically me in a nutshell.
Well, welcome. We look forward
Thank
to having you. And welcome to the neighborhood as a fellow Old Trail resident. So
Absolutely. Thank you.
all right. So the next thing on the agenda is the Virginia Association of Counties Conference update. Ned, I don't know if you want to, are you on now and able to provide that?
Mic check, can you hear me?
Yep.
Sorry about the phone in. I got an unexpected child pickup that I have to do. I appreciate a few minutes. I won't take long, but I did attend the Virginia Association of Counties conference, and there was a presentation by the director of the Virginia Economic Development Program. Roger, help me with the name again. It's Murray?
Stephen Murray.
You're accurate, sir.
So he had given an update and had just met that morning with incoming Governor Glenn Youngkin, but had been received a recent update on outgoing Governor Northam's budget. And I thought it was worthwhile that both Governor Northam and Governor-elect Youngkin have both targeted or cited site preparedness or site readiness as an area for budget prioritization and grants to go out. They see that as the main weapon, if you would, in attracting economic development activity to the Commonwealth. Obviously, they're targeting sites of 100 plus acres, which may not necessarily be something that would be in play here locally or even regionally. But it's something that that's worthwhile to keep on our radar, to know that, one, there could be grant monies available, and just to be in line with what hopefully the state's prioritization will be. The thing that I found interesting was when they talk about site readiness, they're trying to find sites, or it's helpful to have sites that are ready, that when an applicant comes in, they only have about 12 to 18 or 16 months to go to finish getting the site ready. So what it sounds like are other localities that we lose out to around the Commonwealth or other states, their sites are definitely to that point where the company can come in and get set up in quick fashion. Didn't sound like there would be a whole lot of incentive monies to try to bring companies in, but again, using this site readiness as the main tool. I'm sure Roger and JT are more up to speed on this, just having interacting with that on a day-to-day basis. So JT or Roger, if you guys have more to add to that nugget, please do. But this was just my opportunity to come in. I felt that was good information for the EDA to have. Again, some of you may already know that, but I think it's important for our board to know. I've also brought this up at the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission meeting as something that regionally we should all be keeping eyes on, just as we have found success in attracting grants and other efforts for transit, for transportation, for regional housing, that this is another area where we could work together regionally to help attract good economic development activity to the area. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are none, but appreciate, again, the few minutes on the agenda to share the information.
Thank you, Chair Galloway. Any questions or comments? Roger, you have anything you want to add?
JT, I'm going to put you on the spot. Could you talk a little bit about what's going on at the University of Virginia as North Fork Discovery Park, as it relates to the Tier 4 site, as well as the Virginia Business Site Ready Grant?
Yeah, sure. So Chair Galloway is hitting on a really important program for the state for site readiness. The Virginia Business Ready Sites Program is a webpage I'd recommend checking out on VEDP's website. The state provides grants for both site development and site characterization. So for properties that are a minimum of 100 acres, there are grants to characterize them as tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. And then there's site development grants that are competitive, where you can advance those properties to a higher tier level. We have worked with the University of Virginia Foundation to submit a grant for this last round, and are expecting to hear before the end of the month the outcome of that request. Some of you may be familiar with a tier 4 site that is in North Fork. They are the only 100+ acre non-residential site in the county. So it made it easy for us to select who we were going to work with for the grant process. The state has been expediting the review of that grant program to inform the upcoming budget request, because all the different localities across the state that submitted grants that can't be funded, VEDP will then forward that through the General Assembly to make a request to say there are X number of localities that could take their sites that are sitting at 3 or 4 and get them to tier 5 with X amount of grant dollars from the state. So our total request to get to tier 5 was a $6 million grant request. The total budget in this round for the entire state was $7 million. So we don't expect to get that full funding, but we're excited to be a part of the process. It was really great working with the foundation to submit that application, and we're looking forward to doing more. I think on the development side, with anybody with that size acreage, and then anybody with less than 100 acres, starting the characterization process, so they can at least be characterized as a tier 3 or a tier 4.
Hey, JT, would you remind us what the different tiers are? Because I've forgotten.
Yeah, broadly speaking, tier 5 is going to be a shovel-ready site, one that, as Chair Galloway mentioned, that a business could say, hey, we're interested in this site, and a developer could pull a building permit and be completed with construction within a year. Tier 4 goes down from that a lot of the early environmental assessments have been done, but perhaps there hasn't been any sort of site planning, or there still remains grading and preliminary engineering that needs to take place. Tier 3, maybe the property is zoned, but it's wooded. It needs significant infrastructure before it would be primed for development. And tier 2 and tier 1 are going to be mainly raw land. Maybe tier 2 is designated for development, but not yet zoned. And tier 1 would be land not available for development at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Sure.
That project you got on 5th Street we're involved in, are they looking for any sort of senior assisted living facility on that site?
They are not, to my knowledge.
Okay.
All right. Anything else on that? Thanks, Ned. I appreciate that update. So the next item is the amendment of the rules and procedures. Richie, that's you, I believe.
Chair Long, thank you. You're right. And as I was about to hit the unmute button, the whole screen shifted. So I missed that. Anyway, so this is actually this will look familiar to the directors, because this is a direct result of making or adopting a fee schedule for bonds at the last meeting, and in finalizing those documents. Ashley in the Economic Development Office, she noticed that at the end of the rules and procedures, there was a section, and I will call it an uncodified section. It didn't have any numbers. It was just kind of floating out there, and it was called Notes to Application. We looked into the history and have no idea how that made it into the document, but it's been there for, if not decades, at least 1 decade. And it's just kind of randomly out there. And the Notes to Application had, well, the first note to the application said, hey, look at the rules they control. And one of the following sections in the Notes to Application said, here are some limits on bond fees. So they were inconsistent with the rule. And so we just kind of doing some housekeeping here today. And I will say this is in the context of next year. It's staff's intention to take a look at all the rules, to go through them line by line, and then see if we can modernize them. Because as you can see, Rule 4.1 requires applicants to file 9 full and accurate completed applications with all the bond documents. And that just simply does not happen. It doesn't track what actual practice is now. So this is kind of a quick Band-Aid and a quick fix. The suggested changes to the rule to kind of make it work is, 1, we delete the Notes to Application. And that just gets rid of that kind of those clauses that are drifting out there in no man's land. The second thing, what we've done is we kept the submission in case there are applicants who want to submit hard copies. We have changed the 10-day notice to 14 days, which still seems to be pretty tight. But at least it takes us into the 2-week realm, and we can look at down the road, we can look to expanding that. Second thing we do is rather than having applications submitted to the clerk of the Board of Supervisors, we have them submitted to the Economic Development, or to the EDA, care of the Economic Development Office. I did clear with the clerk of the Board of Supervisors, and she indicated that having them filed with the Board of Supervisors was kind of a throwback, in the sense that years ago, the clerk of the Board of Supervisors provided support to the EDA. The county has moved away from that, so she agreed that it was appropriate that applications be filed with the Economic Development Authority. Final quick change is that we will allow electronic versions of the applications to be filed to the Economic Development Authority through the email address that's listed. And that kind of actually tracks a little bit more of what's actually happening these days. So anyway, those are the changes. There was a resolution that was included in the packet. It indicates that this is a result of staff developing the uniform bond issuance. And in the course of that, we discovered kind of the anomaly. And so we are changing the rules to delete the Notes to Application section and updating Rule 4.1. And so the motion would be to adopt the resolution amending Rule 4.1 of the Rules and Procedures and deleting Notes to Application as attached. So any questions?
Any questions for Richie on those changes? One thing that occurred to me, Richie, as we were going through this, is less about this change than about our future change. I think it might make sense as we discuss sort of updating the rules and processes. We have 2 lawyers joining us today who have experience in dealing with authorities throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it might make sense to reach out to some of the folks who appear frequently in front of us and say, okay, what do you see that helps make this process work better, and what kinds of things can we do to just make it easier and smoother in what we do? So I think we could follow up with them afterwards, just to, from an administrative standpoint, make it an easy process to get through.
I agree. I think it's a great idea, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion?
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
I'm Who was that? Was that
That
Stuart?
was, yeah, Stuart. Yep.
Okay.
That was Mr. Ray.
All right. So there is a motion and a second to approve the resolution that was included with the package. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. So, so the motion, the resolution is approved.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you to you. Thank you to Ashley for catching that issue. And and as Richie said, we're going to be, both be looking at the rules in the new year, but also we've decided that we're going to adopt new rules at the beginning of each year just to make sure that we're always have current rules and we don't run into any problems. So next on the agenda is Westminster Canterbury of the Blue Ridge bond refinancing. I'm not sure whether Jim or Ann wants to lead us off. I guess we need to promote all of the people who are here with Westminster Canterbury.
Good evening, Chair Long and Directors. This is Ann Curtis Saunders with McGuire Woods. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great.
Welcome in.
And thanks for having us tonight. As I said, I'm with McGuire Woods and we're serving as bond counsel on this financing. And I think also on the line we have Gary Salmizi, who's the president and CEO of Westminster Canterbury of the Blue Ridge. Anna Buchanan, its CFO and treasurer, and also my colleague, T.W. Bruno. So as represented in the materials in your board package, Westminster Canterbury of the Blue Ridge has requested that the authority issue up to $73 million of its revenue bonds to assist it with refinancing certain of its outstanding bonds previously issued by the authority to assist with financing and refinancing certain improvements at its community in Albemarle County, and also to assist with financing other capital projects at the community. Although I wanted to point out to you all tonight that currently we expect this is going to ultimately be a refunding only, and that there won't be any borrowing for new money projects. So before you tonight are two resolutions. The first I'll call our inducement resolution, which is, among other things, acknowledges that a public hearing has been held on this financing. And so I think there was a lag in me joining, but Mr. Chair, if you didn't, I would ask that you open the public hearing, and if we could request if there are any members of the public present to speak.
Okay. Why don't I do that once you've done your presentation, or should I go ahead and do it now? I'm happy to do it either way.
Yeah, I think we can wait until.
Okay.
And the public hearings required under both federal and state laws related to tax exempt bonds, which we're anticipating these will be. And we publish notice of the public hearing twice in the daily progress. The resolution also provides that the authority's recommendation that the county's Board of Supervisors approve of the financing, which is the next step in our process, provided you all approve of the financing this evening. The second resolution provides authorization for the authority to issue the bonds. It approves of the forms of the financing documents. It authorizes certain officers of the authority to execute the principal bond documents and to take other actions as necessary to affect the transaction. And it also sets certain parameters on the rates and maturity of the bonds. With respect to the authorizing resolution, as some of you may have seen in emails earlier today, we've requested that resolution be adopted subject to one amendment, which is to add a sentence, and I believe paragraph 7, that would allow for certain amendments to be made to the bond documents, to the bond documents for the authority's outstanding bonds that have been issued for the benefit of Westminster Canterbury of the Blue Ridge. And we've made that request because it's become apparent over the last few days that amendments to certain of those documents may prevent Westminster Canterbury of the Blue Ridge from having to pay substantial penalties for prepaying its outstanding debt. And then finally, since I know it's important to you all, I wanted to point out that both of the resolutions before you provide that any bonds issued will not be the general debt of the authority or the county, but will be payable from funds that are pledged in the bond documents, which will be the payments and security provided by Westminster Canterbury of the Blue Ridge, and that any cost of the financing will be paid by Westminster Canterbury. So I think that hits the high points of the process so far and the resolution, or the resolutions rather. But if you have any questions for me, or if you have any questions about the community, again, we have Gary and Anna on, and I'm sure they'd be happy to answer those.
All right, well, why don't we, let's go ahead and open the public hearing. So I will open the public hearing on the Westminster Canterbury, the Blue Ridge bond refinancing. Are there any members of the public who are in the audience who wish to speak at the public hearing? If you can indicate by raising your virtual hand, we'll get you pulled in. Not seeing any comments, I guess we will close the public hearing. Any of the board members have any question for Ann or any of the other folks who are here?
Yeah, I have a really basic question. And that is, why are you coming to us with the bond rather than going to a bank?
Well, I think regardless, even if we were, I mean, I think the anticipation right now is that these will be publicly issued bonds.
Oh, okay.
But for the tax exempt status on the bonds, we have to ask, or we ask you to issue the bonds because we need you to be the issuer for the tax exempt or the tax exemption on the bonds.
Okay.
Councilor Saunders, can you speak to the amount of money you expect to save that may help explain this particular request?
I'm sorry, what was that, Mr. Johnson?
Could you speak to the amount of monies that you're expected to save through this refinancing, which may explain the rationale for this request?
Sure. So it's not savings per se in the long run. Westminster Canterbury is looking to restructure their outstanding debt to provide them some flexibility, but it will allow in I think the first 10 years after issuance, there will be a reduction in debt service payments of, I think it's between $2 and $2.5 million over the first 10 years. But that will ultimately be made up on the back end as we get closer to final maturity.
Any other questions, comments? Gary, you have anything you want to add?
I'd just like to thank the EDA for considering this request and look for your favorable action.
All right. Well, if there's no further discussion, is there a motion on the, should we have separate votes on the resolutions or should we adopt them together? Any preference?
Mr. Chair, I think from our perspective, if we could have separate votes on the resolution.
Okay. All right. Happy to do that. So do we, somebody want to, can we pull up the resolution so we can know which one we're voting on?
I think the first one will be the initial approval, and I'll defer to Ms. Saunders on that. She'll knows better than I do.
That's correct. Thank you.
All right, so it's actually, I don't think I have the resolutions up. All right, so is there a motion on the resolution of the Economic Development Authority of Albemarle County, Virginia, providing initial approval of the issuance of up to $73 million of revenue bonds for the benefit of Westminster Canterbury of the Blue Ridge?
Mr. Chairman, I'll recommend approval of, I'll offer the motion to approve the resolution you just read.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, second.
Was that
further,
Mr. Shreve?
It was.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All in favor of the do we need a roll call here?
We can do a roll call. We'll document it, so let's do that.
Let's do a roll call.
All right, Director Long?
Aye.
Director Ray?
Aye.
Director Shreve?
Aye.
Director Munson?
Aye.
And Director Mottola?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Well, no, that was everybody. So nobody was opposed.
I'm assuming Director Imhoff and McNaughton have not joined the meeting, have they? Hearing none? No. Okay. All right.
All right.
So that's unanimous.
Next resolution. So this is the resolution, the Economic Development Authority of Albemarle County, Virginia, authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds that amount up to $73 million for the benefit of Westminster Canterbury of the Blue Ridge. Is there a motion on this resolution?
I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
And I'll second.
All right. Is there any discussion on this motion to approve the resolution? All right, hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Director Long?
Aye.
Director Ray?
Yes.
Director Shreve?
Aye.
Let's see, Director Munson?
Aye.
And Director Mottola?
Aye.
All right, the motion both is approved and the resolution is adopted by the authority. Anything else? Any other comments or questions related to this?
Mr. Chair, just want to say thank you again to you all and the rest of the board. And
thank you. Thank you. And I will say that earlier when I was suggesting that we ask Ann and TW about the resolutions, that I left Gary out. Gary and I spent a lot of time drafting bylaws for the United Way a long time ago, and I know he's very good at it too. So you can call him as well.
Thank you, Don.
So
and thank you,
thanks,
members
everybody.
of the board.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
And of course, we hope that this doesn't mean that they're cheering for continuation of the current inflationary trend.
Absolutely not.
Thanks, Ann. All right, so that was our last item of new business. There's not any unfinished business on the agenda. We did get a draft meeting schedule. I should say, is there any unfinished business anybody wants to bring up? All right, hearing none. So the draft meeting schedule. So I don't know if people have had a chance to look at their calendar. I have not yet, but I think everybody should look at their calendar and just see if there are any conflicts on that. A reminder that statement of economic interests are due on February 1st. We should get a reminder. We generally get a reminder from the clerk's office or the clerk of the Board of Supervisors about that beginning in January. Also, EDA directors must complete the conflict of interest training, which should, and there's a link to the training on the agenda. And we will, just a reminder, we'll be electing officers again at the January meeting. So anything else that anybody wants to bring up before we wrap up today? Roger, JT, anything else?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just acknowledge that many of you had to change your schedules to participate today in order to help with the bond refinancing and bring a quorum to bear. We very much appreciate your dedication and volunteerism for this particular board. And for that, we're thankful. And I hope each of you have a happy holiday season and years to come. Thank you.
All right. Well, not hearing anything else, I guess we will adjourn the meeting. Thanks for everyone's participation and have a nice holiday.
Everybody else do too.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone.